My name is Ann Cossey. I'm one of the preschool and special education teachers here in Newmarket. I'm also a mom of 3 kids. I have a son, Luke, who's finishing up his 3rd grade year here, a daughter, Elise, who will be in kindergarten this fall, and then I have a daughter, Penny, who will turn 3 right at the end of the summer, just in time to start preschool in the fall. So some of the knowledge that I bring as part of this workshop is from being, a preschool and special education teacher. Some of it is activities I do at home with my own children. And certainly, when we get to the end of the workshop, if you have any questions or other ideas, please feel free to share because, oftentimes we learn a lot just from talking with each other too. So I'm going to go through the PowerPoint presentation. I'll share some activities with you as well as we go along. And then at the end, I'll have some time for questions and answers. And then I'll just ask you to fill out an evaluation at the end to let me know what was helpful to you, what I might be able to do differently so that we can try to improve this as years go on. So here we go. I made introductions. Again, this is the kindergarten readiness workshop. So these are ideas for helping your child to be ready for kindergarten in the fall. At the end, we'll do our questions and answers and evaluations. So this workshop is titled, Ready, Here I Come. And in terms of the objectives, what we want to do is look at the different areas of development, talk about what some things are that are expectations as a child is going into kindergarten in each of these areas, and things that you can do to help support them in being ready for that. So what exactly is school readiness? The Parents Information and Resource Center went to the National Education Goals Panel of 1995, and their definition of school readiness includes 3 critical components. Number 1, children being ready for the social and academic institution of school. Number 2, the readiness of families and communities to prepare their children for school. And then number 3, the readiness of schools to meet the diverse needs of incoming students and their families. So the parent really is their child's first teacher and the best teacher and ultimately responsible for your child's education. You've had 5 years with your child before they even step into school. Lots of opportunities for conversations and doing activities and going out in the community and doing different kinds of things. Once children come into school, they then are exposed to the early learning standards, which are a group of standards that New Hampshire has developed for children up through the age of 5, in having them be prepared for school. And then starting at kindergarten, there are grade level expectations for each grade level. By the end of the year, there are certain expectations for what children should be able to do. And now we've started having the Common Core State Standards. Sometimes it's just called CCSS. And what it is that within the United States of America, 48 states have signed on to use this group of standards, and ultimately what it is looking at college and career readiness. And so they say this is what colleges and career-minded people expect of people by the time they get out from high school, and then they break it down all the way back to kindergarten for what skills need to be learned along the way for children to be ready. The number one thing that parents need to know is that you need to meet your child where they are and move them forward. So you need to have an understanding of the social, emotional, intellectual, physical, and spiritual development for your child. In every one of these areas, you could look at it and you could say, oh great, my child's doing just great in this area. Or you might look at it and you say, my child's not quite ready for this, but we can talk about some of the steps that build up to that to help them to be along the way to be ready. So in terms of help, check, praise, you want to help your children where they need help, check where their skills are, and praise them for every little step along the way as they're learning. So this was an interesting responsibility chart. When I got this training, I thought it was funny how they went from, at the age of 0, your child has very little responsibility for anything that they need to do. And most parents, by the time their child is 18 and they're going off to college, are hoping that they're taking responsibility for themselves. But it needs to kind of be a gradual process along that way. So by the age of 5, when kids are coming into kindergarten, they should be able to do some things on their own. They shouldn't need their parents to help them in every single area. Again, it is a process in each of these areas. You might say, my child's ahead of the game, or my child's a little bit behind what the expectation may be, but you just need to be able to help them where they need it. Make sure that you're checking to see if they're making progress along the way, and then praise them along the way as well. So let's get started. In terms of gross motor skills, as children enter kindergarten, you would hope that they'd be able to walk backwards for between 5 to 6 feet, to be able to stand on one foot for 5 to 10 seconds. Most children are better on their dominant foot, so I'm a lefty. I can stand on my left foot for 5 seconds probably at the most at my age. But I'm not quite as strong on my right foot. That's very typical with children, with everybody, I would imagine that's the case. And so you just want to be able to help your child. If they can stand on one foot for 5 seconds, but on the other foot they start to teeter right away, you might just offer them one finger to hold on to get started, and then stand near a wall as they're trying to stand on that opposite foot, so that they just have that security that the wall is right there to help them if they need to. So don't be worried if your child can't do all of these things. Most children should be able to walk in a straight line, and one of the things that you can do with your children is play animal walk. So children might pretend that they're an animal, walk around, act like an animal. In preschool, we've been working on the story, The Three Billy Goats Gruff, over the past couple of weeks. And so we had the children acting it out over the past couple of days. And so the children who were the goats, would get down on all fours to walk like a goat. The ones who were the troll might squat down like a troll as they were coming out and acting out the story. One of the things that you'll get to take home with you is a DVD that's called Ready, Here I Come. And it'll talk about each one of these areas as well. It'll show some grown-ups pretending like they're kindergartners and acting out some of these things. And then some actual children who are going into kindergarten trying out things. So in terms of gross motor skills, there's a section about being able to do a somersault and how hard that is for kids to start learning. And so this one child is talking about how hard it is that, trying to do a somersault is so hard. And then this little almost kindergartner comes in and says, oh, I can show you how to do it. This is just what you do. You put your elbows down on the floor and you tuck your head, and then you just roll over. And it's not the most beautiful somersault that child does, but it kind of will give you a feeling, and it's something you can watch with your children, and they can see some of the different kinds of activities that they can do along the way as well. In terms of fine motor skills, some of the things that you can do with your child is have your child draw a picture of a man. You can have them draw a stick picture, leave off the eyes or an arm or a leg as you're drawing it, and see if they can figure out what's missing and how to draw it in. You can work on drawing and copying circles, squares, rectangles, explore ways to recognize and write their name, learn how to tie a knot, a bow, tying ropes and shoelaces. There's a lot less opportunity for that nowadays in the age of Velcro. I'll tell you, my 3rd grade son has no interest in learning how to tie his shoes. Okay, and I really expect him, like, this is supposed to be by kindergarten, he should be able to do this, but he just has no real desire to learn how to tie because Velcro is just so much easier and it's so much faster. So, some kids really want to learn how to do it, other kids, it's just too much. In terms of learning how to tie, oftentimes, if you teach them to just make the X, tuck it through, and pull it down. If they're doing some part of it, and then you say, okay, now the very next part you're going to do is just make this loop, and then you finish it for them and just kind of move them forward in the process, that generally is a better way to do it than to say, tie your shoes, good luck with that. You really kind of have to help them along the way. Some of the things that you'll get in your packet in terms of fine motor skills are this idea of a stick man with pieces missing, and so you can ask your child, oh, I see one arm, what else is missing? Oh, he needs another arm. Is there something you need at the end of your arm? Oh yeah, you need a hand with fingers, or you need a foot on this side, or there's an ear missing here. So see if they can figure out what's missing and then be able to draw those things in. One of the other things that you'll get to take home tonight is the handwriting, and we'll get into handwriting later on. But, certainly in terms of fine motor skills, when children are learning how to write their name, in kindergarten we use this Handwriting Without Tears program, and they teach you that every letter starts at the top. So if your child's name starts with the letter A, you don't want them starting at the bottom, going up and down and then across. So this packet that you take home actually has the language that you would use for teaching your child about how to make each of the capital letters. As children are learning how to write their name, they often will have difficulty with spacing. We have a lot of kids who in preschool will start to write their name halfway across the page and then they run out of room. So you might get, if this was my name and I started A right here, I might get A-N, and then the other N goes here and the E goes at the end. So one way that we get kids to work on writing their name and knowing that it goes across the page, sometimes we'll draw a little happy face up in the left-hand corner to remind them to start over to the left. But we'll also just take paper and fold it so that each letter has its own little box for you to put it in, and then that way you can make it at the top of the paper for them maybe, and then have them just learn how to kind of copy in the boxes below. Again, using that handwriting without tears language. Some kids are already beyond it, they're already using upper and lowercase letters and they're all set with this. And other kids really do need a little more support in that area. Another thing you'll get in your packet is this Play-Doh counting mat. So this works on both math skills and fine motor skills, in that you can have them take little tiny pieces of Play-Doh, and just getting them to work their fingers individually really helps with developing those fine motor skills. So rolling out tiny pieces of dough and putting 1 on for the number 1, or rolling out 2 for the number 2, and so on. That's another thing that you can work on with the kids. For visual discrimination, some of the things that you're looking at a child being able to do in kindergarten is to recognize shapes, to be able to sort triangles, circles, squares, etc., to have color recognition, to be able to look at and recognize colors, name them, look at different objects, stars, etc., and be able to name what they are. Name ways that things are alike, like in what ways would a sweater, a shoe, and a hat be the same? Oh, those are all things that you wear. So, one way that you might be able to do some of this visual discrimination and sorting, at home I've taken things that belong in the kitchen, things that belong in the bathroom, and I'll just put them all together in a pile and say, can you figure out which things go in the bathroom, and see if they can kind of sort those things out, which things go in the kitchen, and find the things that go in the kitchen. Sorting silverware is a great thing that you can get kids to do, being able to put the silverware away. Okay, all the forks need to go together, all the spoons need to go together. My kids are in charge of sorting the socks at home, so all my socks that don't match up, I throw them all in a drawer, and every once in a while it's the kids' job to go through and try to find the matches that, a couple loads apart from each other somehow end up together again. And so they'll, put them together, and then you can also work on trying to just be able to fold them over. So you'll also get in your packet some of these shape buttons. And as kids are learning about shapes and colors, typically what they can do first is just match same to same. So if they had 2 stars, they can match them together. Even before they know that they're a star, they could say, okay, these look the same, and match them together. Or, these are green, they're the same. Next, what you would expect that they'd be able to do is to be able to point to it. So if you say, which one of these is shaped like a star, that they can point to that. And then the last thing you expect is that they're going to be able to expressively tell you what they are. So you say, oh, what's this? And they can say it's a circle. And what's this? This is an oval. Again, children can be at all different spectrum of this. Some children are able to all the way expressively name all of these. They may not know octagon, hexagon, things like that. So you may need to start at the beginning level of, okay, do they recognize the difference between a hexagon and an octagon? If I ask them to sort it, would they not match together a hexagon and an octagon, because they can't even visually see the difference? And then if you can see that they can sort those, okay, now can they point to the one that's right, and then eventually can they name it? Distinguishing between left and right, this is really hard. Again, my kindergartner has this, my 3rd grader does not have this. And so one way that we do it is we play hokey pokey with the kids, and we'll put a sticker just on their left hand and on their left shoe. So as we're saying, put your left hand in, don't forget that's the one with the sticker. And so then they get used to doing that over and over again. here's your left, here's your left, you know, as we're going out to the playground, we'll tell the kids, okay, everybody look left to look for cars, you know, and us saying that over and over and over again, now I don't even always have to stick my arm out for the kids to know that that's going to be left or this is going to be right. As I drive along in the car, my almost 5-year-old will tell me, turn left, you know, that she's gotten to realize when I get to a stop sign, if I don't start turning right away, and she knows where I'm supposed to be going, she knows this is left and that's the way that you're supposed to be going. So just having lots of opportunities in your day for working on that left and right definitely makes a difference. And then the only other thing I didn't say is about Beanie Babies, you know, or other things that are different, you know. Can you find why these are different? So if you look at two Beanie Babies and they're both bears, okay, they're both bears, but what's different? Oh, this one's red and this one's green. So talking about same and different, that's a really good concept to work on with your children. Okay, in terms of memory, so being able to repeat a series of 4 numbers without practice. So if you say to them, okay, say 7263, then they say back to you 7263. You know, some kids are at a point right now where they can do 2 numbers together. Other kids can do longer strings. You know, certainly this is working on building up to being able to then maybe say their phone number, things like that. You know, repeat 8 to 10 word sentences after you say them once. So if you said, all right, say this after me, the girl ran all the way to the store for her mother. Some kids will say, her mom said go to the store and she ran all the way there. I mean, they understand the gist of it, but they can't say it back. Or, you know, some kids might say, you know, the girl ran to the store. You know, they might be able to get some of it. If you give your child a 10-word sequence and they can't do it, just know that you can back up to something a little bit shorter and build up to that. You know, use everyday series of objects and events to exercise your child's short-term memory. So, you know, one game that we'll play with the kids in class is we'll take different objects and we'll hide them underneath a cloth. So say I have, you know, a star, a circle, an oval, a triangle, a heart. I'll hide them underneath, and then I'll take something away, and then I'll say, do you know what I took? And see if they can remember what I took. So for most kids, they can remember better what you take away than if I put out a couple of things, and I say, okay, this is what we have, and then I cover it over and I put out more things, and I say, okay, which ones were there first? They have a harder time with that concept, so you can kind of try it both ways with your child. You know, we do it in terms of, you know, when we're learning about transportation, you know, we'll have different transportation items. So you're working on vocabulary as well as working on the memory as you're doing that. Following directions in sequence, so being able to follow 2 to 3 step directions after being told once. So if you said, bring me a book, skip around the room, and shut the door, can they do all 3 things in a row? For most kids who can't, they leave out the middle step. They'll remember the first thing you said and the last thing you said, but not the one in the middle. So certainly if you need to kind of work backwards on this, you want to start with maybe 2 steps, or start with things that are connected, you know. Pick up the triangle and give it to me. That's 2 steps, but it's with the same object. So that's easier than pick up the triangle and then give the star to somebody else, because that's 2 separate things. So just knowing that you can take it to whatever level your child is at. Memorizing phone number and address, you know, that's something that you can challenge your children to work on. So, you know, for us, I can say the beginning of our phone number, and they might be able to say just the last few digits, and then you kind of work backwards from that. So I can say 292, and then I might get the last 4 digits out of them. Or you say the first 6 digits and just see if they can say the last one. And then working on your address, you know, pointing out the name of your street. Do you notice what numbers on our house, so that you can get them to actually understand what it is when you're talking about address, that it's not just this string of information you're asking them to remember, but that it actually has a connection to something. And then playing pattern games, you know, for preschool age kids, you know, we might make a pattern of star, oval, what would come next, you know, and see if they can build on it. You know, it's usually easiest to do what they call an A-B pattern first. So you have one thing and then another, and then it repeats one thing and another. I tell my kids, it's like taking turns, okay? My turn, your turn, my turn, your turn. That's an easy pattern. And then you build up to things that are longer so that you have 3 different things that repeat. Or you might have one that's like star, triangle, star, square. Star, triangle, star, square. So working on all of those kinds of things. For anybody that's technology minded, there are a lot of great apps out there that have these kinds of things. There's one that's called Timmy's Preschool Adventures that my kids have really gotten a kick out of. And it has some of these patterning things and, you know, being able to connect the dots by number and things like that. All right, so in terms of early math, there are some different simple games that you can play. Playing an all-gone game where you have a certain number of objects and you count backwards as you're using them. I'll show you how to play that in a minute. Race games where you try to see, you know, who can get done fastest in, you know, counting or going up the stairs, things like that. Certainly going up and down stairs is a great way to start with practicing counting because you can just count every step as you go. Counting 4 objects up to 10 using dice. You know, one of the things that they use a lot in school here is what's called visual clusters. So, you know, when you look at a dice, you probably don't need to look at this and count out the 4 dots to know what it is. So the children also learn how to just be able to look at a series of numbers or a section of different things and to be able to just look and know without having to count. So using a dice is a really great way for kids to work on that, you know, and also we use what's called Cuisinart rods. I don't know if you saw them at all when you went down to visit in kindergarten, but what it is it's a series of different sticks or rods, and each one is a different color and it has a different value. So the smallest one is about this big and it's 1 and it's white. And then the longest one is 10 and it's orange, and it's actually 10 white ones all together. And so each color has its own value, and the children learn the values of them. They build a staircase by starting with the number 1 and putting the number 2 and 3 and 4 all the way up to 10 together. And then they start to learn that, okay, the white one is always worth 1 and the 10 is always worth the orange is always worth 10. So if I wanted to make 11, I can put this 10 and the 1 together, or I could put together a 9 and a 2 and it's going to make the same length. So they use it all through the elementary school for learning addition and multiplication and division and all kinds of things. So your kids will get a lot of exposure to that when they go to kindergarten. Again, in terms of early math, recognizing the basic shapes, circle, square, triangle, rectangle. So let me show you how to play the all gone game, but I need a volunteer to play against me. Is there anybody that would be willing to play? All right, come on up, Lucy. Not too tricky, so.
Even basic math.
You would be okay on this one, I think. So what you do is first you just start by counting out 10. I'm going to use Cheerios. I try to use things that, as I'm playing, if you're taking away, that it's something that's going to be gone fast. So, I mean, you can use these chips and just slide them off, but my kids prefer food, so we go with Cheerios. So we're going to count out 10 each. So you count out 10 on your side. And you'll have a folder with a couple of pictures so you can make your own game at home. And as I play this game, I might say, ooh, you know what? I know I can make 10 by making 3s and then having 1 extra. Or I can put mine together, you know, in groups of 2, and 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and just, you know, show them how you might do it. So you start with 10, and then you take your trusty die, and you roll it. And so I got 5, so I get to take away 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. And now it's Lou's turn. She got 2. It's my turn again. So I roll, and I have 2. And of course, now as you get towards the end of the game, if you roll a 5 but you only have 3 left, you can't go. So then you have to wait for your next turn. So I roll. I got a 5. I can't go. You got a 4. You can still go.
This is great for small motor skill stuff.
Exactly. You can work on that too. Pins of grip. I got a 4. I still can't go. She got it 2. Hers are all gone, so she would say all gone, and then we would shake hands and say good game.
Good.
All right, and so then that's it. So that's basically how you play the all gone game.
I'd say, oh, you won.
I didn't win, but I'm still gonna eat my Cheerios. All right, in terms of social skills, children are learning about being able to play and use their imagination, learning rules and independent work habits. In kindergarten, they'll often start their day with a table task where they come in and they might have puzzles out, or they might have, a connect the dots sheets or something. And the kids are expected to be able to go and sit down and work independently for, 5 to 10 minutes on something. And it's just kind of getting them to build up to being able to do things on their own without having to have a teacher over them all the time. So certainly getting your kids to be able to work on that over the summer is great. Developing character and behavior skills such as sharing, kindness, taking turns, honesty, etc. Problem solving by working with others, trying even when they're challenged. Sharing their feelings, needs, and opinions in a respectful way. That is challenging. And learning to make choices. And, for many kids, they want to be able to make all the choices for themselves. And, my 2-year-old already wants to pick out her clothes for herself every day. So, but I can actually say, okay, these are the choices that you have. You can wear this or this. It's still your choice, but you're not going to pick from your whole wardrobe. So you want to give your child lots of opportunities to have choices, but within a reasonable way, or a way that works for you. When your kids are getting ready for bed and they want to argue with you about the fact that it's bedtime. Okay, do you want to put your pajamas on first, or do you want to brush your teeth first? It's still your choice. You have to do both, but you can pick which one you want to do first. So just making sure that they're getting lots of opportunities for that. All right, in terms of health, kids should really still be getting 10 to 12 hours of sleep every day. They should be eating healthy meals, using the bathroom independently, being able to wash their hands and face, comb their hair, brush their teeth. Kids are still often working on buttoning, zipping, snapping, and tying. Zipping is usually the first thing I find with my preschoolers anyway, that they're able to do. Some of them still need us to kind of attach the bottom. We always call it they're getting the car in the garage, and then the car can, then the garage door can go up. I don't know why you would do it in that order, but for whatever reason, that's what we've always called it. So we'll say, I'm going to help you get the car in the garage, and then you can drive the door up afterwards. So they may need help in getting started. Same thing with snapping. You might have to get the 2 pieces so that they're just together, and then they can do the last step of pushing it together. Buttoning, again, and tying, you can kind of help them along the way with the steps so that they're doing part of it. So, staying safe when moving and playing. These things I find are often the least interesting to the kids. If you say, okay, let's work on getting you healthy, healthy foods and getting lots of sleep at night, that's not something that they're very excited about. We do have a book that we'll give you to take home, and it's called I'm Ready for School When I Do These Things, and in the middle it has pictures of all different kinds of things. So if you can already go to the bathroom on your own, you could cut out the picture of going to the bathroom and glue it in the book. But if you're not getting enough sleep at night, you're not ready to glue that picture in. So you want to work with your child on these different skills over the course of the summer. And then hopefully, by the end of the summer, they can have this book all done that they're able to do, willing to do on some nights, all of these different kinds of things. All right, in terms of language development, kids are working on listening and following directions, participating in conversations, communicating their thoughts, feelings, and ideas, saying their first and last name and their parent's name. Very important if your child walks off from you in the store like mine did, and then you hear over the intercom, can Anne Marie Cossey please come to the front of the store? Hey, she knows my name. That worked out to my benefit. Being able to speak clearly in sentences, use vocabulary words, and learn new words. So, principal is a new word to a lot of kids as they're coming into school. So being able to explain to them in some kind of language, like we might say, the principal is the big boss of the school. He gets to go in the front office, What is a flag? The flag is, the thing that you're going to salute at school, and kind of talking about that new language that they may not know. In terms of speaking clearly in sentences, many kids are still speaking kind of in phrases, but you might need to model for them how they could say it in a sentence. So, You know, I will still sometimes get from my almost kindergartner, more juice, please, you know, and I'll be like, all right, I'm glad you're saying please, but you could say, may I please have more juice? And so I'll model that language and have her say it back to me. You know, anytime that the kids are doing different activities for us and they come out with just a phrase, we'll often model that language and have them say it back to us. And the more they can practice, the easier it becomes for you to be able to do that on your own. I'm realizing now that when this is shown on Channel 13, my kids are going to kill me for half the things I said tonight. Early reading skills, so engaging in story circles, cutting and pasting activities. Those are some of the things that kids will do in kindergarten. You know, where they read a story, they talk about what was your favorite part of the story. And so then the kids are expected to be able to come up with a favorite part of the story, or to finish reading a story and then they're asked to go over to the table and, you know, cut out a picture and glue it on. And, you know, we read a story, The Big Red Barn, with our kids in preschool. And then they had to cut out a barn and glue it on a paper and glue some animals inside of the barn. You know, we're kind of coaching them through it, most of our 3- and 4-year-olds, and the kids that are going to kindergarten, will show them, here are the steps that you're going to do. You're going to be cutting, you're going to be gluing, you know, you're going to choose 3 animals to put inside the barn. And we'll just show them that, and then we say, and now you can do it. And they will refer to the visuals, which will also be available in kindergarten, so that they know, okay, I finished doing this, what comes next? Okay, I can refer back to that schedule for what to do next, but they're expected to do more on their own. And you don't have to be a fancy artist to be able to make those kinds of visuals for your kids. Stick figures work just great. In terms of retelling true stories and pretend stories, being able to differentiate between real and pretend. So, you know, when we read a real book about goats on a farm, as opposed to the 3 billy goats gruff, how do you know that that's fake? Well, trolls don't really live under bridges, or, you know, a goat wouldn't really be talking, you know, things like that, so that they can tell the difference between. You know, when they tell a story, do they have some of that sequence, and can they make predictions about what might happen in the story as you're reading? Identifying beginning sounds, practicing opposites. Okay, if I say a fire is hot, but ice is, can they fill in that last word? So making up some different kinds of opposites like that. Recognizing upper and lowercase letters, playing word games like Wellephant is just, you know, Willoughby, Wallafie, Wellephant. You know, Annie sat on an elephant, and then you like make up different kinds of letter sounds and add things on like that. Singing and listening to children's songs, understanding that printed words carry a message. So some of the things that you'll take home with you today are capital and lowercase letter cards. With some of our kids, what we've done is taken and cut out the letters and put them on a popsicle stick, and we say, this is your magic F wand. And so you're going to walk around the house and find things that start with the F sound, and you can touch your wand to anything that starts with that sound. You know, you'll have these letter cards so that even if you're just working on, you know, letter recognition, again, in the same way that you would with shapes and colors, your child might first be able to just match together 2 that are the same. I can see that this is an A and this is an A and match it together. I don't know what it's called, but at least I can match it. And then, you know, can they point to it, and eventually can they name it? So, you know, some children are going to come into kindergarten already knowing all of their capital and lowercase letters. Many children will come in only knowing a few, or only knowing the ones in their name. You know, for kids who haven't been in a program before, the hope is that they at least know the letters in their name. And then all of the letters are introduced over the course of the first, I think, month and a half before they start actually expecting the kids to recognize and know them. So you're ahead of the game if your kids already know a lot of the letters along the way. You'll also get a nursery rhymes CD, which has a bunch of the different nursery rhymes so that you can, you know, play it in the car or play it in the CD player at home, and just get your kids used to some of these nursery rhymes. Some of you may already be singing some of these at home, other ones you may not be. I didn't do a whole lot of 1, 2, buckle my shoe until I got this CD, and it goes all the way up to 20. And the voice goes higher and higher and higher through the song, and it drives me crazy. But my kids like that one, so I still let them listen to it on occasion. See if there was anything else that went along with that. Lowercase letters, songs. Oh, you'll have a storybook as well. So certainly, working on just reading a book with your children, recognizing, and we'll get to the things about reading books as well, but recognizing when I hold the book like this, you're not holding it the right side up. Or if I say, okay, I'm going to start reading now, and I open to the last page, you want your kids to go, no, 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 that's not where you start a book. Or if you're holding it upside down, for them to be able to recognize some of the things that go along with that. Or as you read a book and you start partway through, this book, Tom Goes to Kindergarten, is about a little panda who goes to kindergarten, and his parents are really sad. They miss him. They want to go to kindergarten too. And so partway through the book, as his mom is doing laundry with his little sister, and she's so sad that she's not at kindergarten, they end up actually showing up at kindergarten and getting to stay for the day. But you can read, this book, and you can say, oh, what do you think will happen next, and have them make a prediction. Sometimes you're right, and sometimes you're wrong. And you don't have to feel bad about the fact that you're wrong, because I'm wrong a lot of the time too. And I try to make sure that kids will see me sometimes make mistakes too, so that they can know making mistakes is just part of life, and you just go on. All right, so using books, some more things. So learning how to take care of books, turning one page at a time. Being able to know the front and the back of a book, turning pages appropriately, identifying the title, the author, the illustrator of books. If I hold a book up to my kids and I say, where is the title? They usually know, okay, it's probably going to be at the top of the book up here. Not that they can necessarily read it. We'll talk about how many words are in the title. Remember, words are, bunches of letters stuck together, and that's the kind of language we would use with kids. So here's a word, and then, oops, I'm jumping over a space, so now I'm on a new word. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 words in Tom Goes to Kindergarten. We'll talk about the author. The author is the person that wrote all the words in the book. So I'll open up a book to a page, and I'll say, oh, look, they wrote all of the words on this page, and the illustrator is the one that draws the pictures. Oh, look, the illustrator knows how to draw pandas, and they know how to draw ties, and they know how to draw teddy bears, and the illustrator can do this. So I try to use the language over and over and over again to get them to understand that there's a difference between author and illustrator. Recognizing first sight words like a, to, I, me, etc. You'll have this set of matching beginning words, so you can play a memory game where you flip the cards over, and they'll flip it over, and they might at first just be able to recognize both of these are triangles. I can't read the word, but I know that these are the same because they both have triangles, or the shape of the letters looks the same. And then eventually you would hope that maybe they could point to which one of these says me. Okay, I know that it's going to start with a sound, so it's probably not going to be that one, and you can kind of go through it with them to eventually having them being able to read some of these early sight words. Going left to right and top to bottom when you're reading, so actually pointing to the words in the book. Encourage asking and answering questions while you're reading. So, some parents think when I sit down and read a book, I just read. I read the beginning, the middle, the end of the book, and then the book time is done. But really, as you're reading, if you stop and you ask questions about it, or if there's a new vocabulary word, what do you think that might mean? And see if they can kind of figure it out as you're reading. Using silly voices is always a good thing that you can do too. Doing different voices for the different characters in a book. And then have children creating books of their own, picture books, color books, etc. Sometimes we'll finish a story and we would say, then when the story was all done, I wonder what happened next. Can you add one more page to the book? And then they can think of something else that happened after the story ended, or, picture books of anything. So any kind of thing where you just staple together 2 or 3 pages and see if they can tell you a beginning, a middle, and an end of a story. All right, in terms of early writing, again, being able to write their first name using upper and lowercase letters. The expectation coming into kindergarten is that they're using all uppercase letters. So don't think that your child should have to know how to do lowercase letters. They really don't expect that until after, within handwriting, they've introduced all the lowercase letters, and that's really not until November or December. So starting off the year with all capital letters is perfectly fine. If your child's using the right formation for upper and lowercase letters, I'm sure the teachers will let them keep doing it. But if they're not using the right formation, they are going to ask them as they're learning the lowercase letters to start using them correctly in their names. Writing letters of the alphabet and numbers, using a variety of writing materials such as crayons, pencils, marker, chalk, recognition of first sight words, just like we said before in terms of reading, you can also in terms of writing. If I was going to write the word I, it's just one letter. Can you guess what it might be? That it's the letter I, and having them write it. Kids are starting to do some early sounding out, recognizing the sounds in words. So if they drew a picture of a goat and they wanted to write that, okay, the first sound is g, g, g. Do you know what letter that is? And so for kids who have letter sound correspondence, they may actually be able to get that the g sound goes first, and then you say, okay, what would come next? G, O. What letter would make that sound? Maybe it's O. Maybe they write the letter A. We don't even correct them if they're using that inventive spelling, but they recognize that it's a vowel or something. Then you just go along with it and let them write it, and having them do each sound as they're writing it out. If they get a beginning and an ending sound, that's great. If they get just the first two sounds, that's perfectly fine. Just having them kind of expanding on whatever skills that they have. Using finger paint to draw and write and create images is great. Again, for the fine motor skills and the gross motor skills, doing painting along a table, sometimes even taping paper under the table, and so that they have to have their arms up as they're laying below the table to do drawing. Probably wouldn't do painting under the table. I'm thinking, no, I don't think that's what I was saying. But, drawing, with crayons or markers from under a table, and certainly up at an easel so that they have to use this upper body strength as they're drawing. That really helps with working on the gross motor, which then leads to the fine motor skills as well. Painting using brushes, other tools to create pictures and stories. And again, you have the handwriting without tears resources there. And then in terms of readiness checklists for parents, these are just a few different checklists that parents can use for kind of tracking reading skills, different kinds of sound skills. I love this PBS Parents Child Development Tracker because it kind of reminds me of the what to expect when you're expecting or in the first year, but it actually has for every age all the way up through like 8 or 10, so that, okay, by the end of the time that my child is 5, these are many of the skills that would be expected. So a lot of the things that we talked about today, but other things in addition. And certainly the expectation is if you look at the 5-year-old, you have to understand this is by the end of the 5-year-old year, not my child turned 5 today, they should be able to do all of these things. That's not really what it is. So certainly check out these websites. You can check out the Handwriting Without Tears website as well. It's right on the paperwork that I give you to take home today. Other websites for parents and teachers, you can take a look at all of that. Again, the Parents Information and Resource Center was wonderful in giving me all the information for this training and all of the packets of things to send home to you. So even though last year was the last year of funding, if you want to send a thank you their way, you certainly can do that. So that's it in terms of the workshop. Does anybody have any particular questions? Again, these are the different areas of development that we looked at. So if you have any particular questions kind of regarding your child or about development or about how to step something back, I'm certainly willing to take any questions you might have.
If my daughter is very interested in reading, immigrants, spelling,
Yeah.
all of that, and I was on the Department of Ed website,
Yeah.
and I was looking for sight words. She got in her mind, she came home one day and informed me that she was going to learn to read. What are word families? So we started that, and she heard sight words somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't know whether I was talking about it with the work that I do with
Yeah.
adults or whatever. She was very, very interested in that. Where are a list of sight words that this district uses or New Hampshire uses? Because I could not find them.
Oh, okay. I know a lot
Anywhere.
of times that I'll hear the teachers here talking about the Dolch word list.
Okay,
So that's definitely one that I would check out if I were you.
Okay. I didn't know if there was one specific to the school system or to New Hampshire or.
Yeah, and I don't know. From my feeling, I think I've seen different districts use different things.
Okay.
You know, not everybody uses the Dolch words, but I know that's something that I've heard the teachers here
I
talking
mean,
about
at
using.
kindergarten, they're all very, very
Exactly.
similar. You know, it might
Exactly.
be different when you.
And word families are definitely a great way to start, knowing, you know, me, be, we, you know,
Right.
all of those kinds of things are a great way to start. And then kind of building off from there.
I just didn't know if there was particular information. I mean, this is self-driven. This
Absolutely. Oh, that's
I
great.
wanna support
and
her in
absolutely,
that, so.
and that's it. I mean, if your child has something that they're very interested in, something they're gung ho for, don't hold them back because you think that like they don't need that for kindergarten. Go with whatever they're interested in. That definitely makes sense. So that would be one thing that I would recommend checking out.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I had a question about the real versus pretend
Yeah.
piece relating to
Yep.
books. Is that are they able to, at this point, should they be able to really distinguish something that actually did happen, whether it's here at school or somewhere else, versus something that they kind of created? Like I feel like
Sometimes
my
the
daughter
fantasy
often
within their
comes-
mind.
has suddenly morphed into this reality, and
Yeah.
no, that is what happened.
Right.
Oh, are you sure? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's typical or if
Yeah,
that's
that
my
often
particular
happens in that
child.
4 to 5 year old year that their
Okay.
imagination. I mean, one of the things that we talked about is that their imagination should really be developing. And so sometimes they literally believe the things that they imagined are real.
Okay.
And so that's not atypical that that would be happening. You know, certainly in the visual of looking at a book, you know, it's a lot
That's
easier to do
right.
than when it's something that, you know, it's going on in your mind, and so it feels so real to you, and so therefore it probably is real. Generally by like age 6 or 7, they get out of that phase,
Okay.
but don't be worried about
Okay.
that at this age, absolutely not. Yeah. Anything else? So if you can't think of anything else, I do just have an evaluation. If you could just fill that out. Let me know what was helpful to you from the workshop tonight, if there's anything that I could improve, if I get to keep giving it in the future. In past years, I've asked parents, you know, would it be better if I gave this workshop to you earlier in the year so that you had more time to work with your kids on these things, or is this really a good time right before summer? So if you have any input on that, feel free to share it. And again, you know, thank you for coming. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedules to come to the workshop tonight. And
Yes,
we appreciate it.